This is Road Noise, the introductory episode. Well, hello there. I'm Michael Blackston, and I really do appreciate you taking a moment to give Road Noise a listen and see if it's something that might interest you. If you've come to Road Noise by way of one of my other podcasts, then you know a little bit about me already. But via this podcast, you're really going to get to know me. So if it's the type of thing that you want to listen to, a life journal podcast, then this is for you. What is it about a person's life that is boring? What is it about a person's life that is exceptional or interesting? What makes an everyday activity or someone's everyday life worth listening to? I don't think it's just the stuff that happens, because everybody has interesting, crazy stuff that happens. It's not the details. It's how the details are presented. Is it interesting? If I tell you a story about what happened to me today, and I think that's what I want this particular podcast to be, if I tell you about what happened in my day today, it could get very boring, or I could get a little bit into the psychology of it. Because of what I do, there's some really deep, sensitive, wonderful things that go on behind the scenes of what happened to me today in a very busy day for me. It may have seemed dull and boring to some, but I got to meet a lot of different people today, and I got to see how I touched their lives with what I do for a living. And each group of people, 3 that I can think of right now, I don't think there was anybody else that I talked. Yeah, it was 3 separate groups of people that I was able to touch in a very profound but different way for each of them. Now, before I describe my day for you, because I think that's what I want to do now, I think I want to go ahead and see how that feels on my tongue, using this podcast to tell you stories about the things that happen in my life on a daily basis or maybe a weekly basis, and see if you're interested at all. So, that's enough of a stinking introduction, okay? I've talked myself into what this podcast is going to be. Today was tiring. Honestly, today was a dreaded day. This work week, I dreaded, because it was a maintenance week. Most weeks that I work, most days that I work in my job, 9 out of 10 of them, I'm going to make money. It may be a tedious job, but I will do well with it financially. I'm a granite etcher. Etching is just artwork on black tombstones. You can scratch the surface of the polish, and the granite underneath the black polish is a lighter shade, and so you can see what you're doing. And it's kind of the opposite of drawing on white paper, where with white paper you're putting in the shadows and the dark areas. With etching on black granite, you're actually scratching out so that the highlights are what appear, and the shadows are the polish that remains. So it's kind of the opposite of drawing, but etching's been around for years and years and years. It's not just something that's done on tombstones, but that's what I do, and we do it in black and white, and we do it in color. And if you're interested, you can go to blackstonetching.com, 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 and there's a gallery of my work there. It's not really that fancy of a website, because I don't use it for any sort of promotions or monetization. I just use it for customers who want to see what they're getting when they go and talk to my monument dealers that use me. They'll send them to blackstonetching.com, and they can look at a gallery of my work, and you can see what I do. So if you're more interested, go there. So that's what I do. And I travel around to monument companies all over the Southeast in an 8-hour radius of Elberton. Today, well, this trip starting yesterday I got up 5 o'clock in the morning. No, I didn't. I just lied to you. 6 o'clock in the morning. Had everything pre-packed, and I had to drive to Tuscaloosa, Alabama from Elberton, Georgia, which is about a 5-hour drive. Had to get through Atlanta. If you've ever been in Atlanta, it is one of the worst places in the world for traffic, especially on a weekday morning. Although it wasn't as bad as it has been, but traffic was still at a crawl at times, and it took a long time to get through Atlanta, and I got to Tuscaloosa. And the reason I was dreading this week's work was because this week, it was kind of like a perfect storm of maintenance. I wasn't really getting paid. I did get paid. One of the lowest weeks I've had in a long time when I was actually had a work week. I was about to go into the dollar amounts. I'm not going to do that. That's probably not a smart idea. But anyway, it was a lower one, but I did get paid a little something, so it wasn't a complete waste. However, for the most part, this trip was to replace paint that had faded out of some stones because of some faulty paint I had used in previous orders. In Tuscaloosa, I had 2 different stones that a guy called me and I had to do. I had a customer in Winfield, Alabama, who was not happy with one of 4 portraits that I had put on their stone. Yes, you can do portraits in the stones and in black granite, and I had done so, and this was a very tiny one. It's the smallest portrait on the stone. It was a tiny little face of a little boy. The young man who had died, it was a picture of him when he was a little boy. They weren't happy with it, and so I had made an appointment to go back to Winfield, Alabama to work on that. And then there was another portrait somebody was not happy with. Now, this doesn't happen to me very often. Most of the time when I do work, the people love it. Now, that's not being arrogant. That's just, I am good at what I do, and I just honestly don't have many complaints, even with my portraits. And portraits are the hardest thing to do. So, when I got the call a few weeks ago that not a few weeks ago, only a couple of weeks ago, that the customer in Winfield, Alabama was not happy, I told him I would be in Alabama before too long. I happened to be in Alabama at that time, and I was working on a job, but I couldn't leave and go fix it right then, so I told him I'd be back. So I knew I could come this week, and I called him, and I set it up, and then almost immediately I get a call from the guy in Tuscaloosa saying, "Mike, the paint has come out of these stones." Well, I knew I had a few stones where some of the faulty paint that I had used had to be replaced, and it just happened that I knew I was coming to Alabama, so I said, I'm going to Winfield on Thursday. Why don't I come a day early and go to Winfield? Let's back up and punt. I knew I was coming to Winfield on Thursday, which is today. So I said, since you need me to put the paint in those stones in Tuscaloosa, which is about an hour south of Winfield, let me come a day early on Wednesday to Tuscaloosa. Go ahead and knock that out while I'm in the area. Great, he said. And then I get a phone call from the other place just down the road from Winfield, a little hole-in-the-wall town called Carbon Hill. Lovely people, but it is just a little small town. But they do sell a lot of granite for me and do a lot of etching, and they had a portrait that I had done that somebody was not happy with. And when you get 3 of these, like right boom 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 like that, well, you don't have the greatest things in the world going through your head, and I didn't, so I had dread going on. When the customer's not happy, when that happens, I generally, because I do travel on site to where these customers are, I want to meet with them, because I don't want to have to go back a third time. So I'll tell them, come, talk to me, we'll make an appointment, I'll ask them what it is they don't like, we'll look at it with fresh eyes, and we'll fix it while they're standing there so that before they leave, they are happy with it, and I am happy because I know it is complete. My customers are happy. I'm all about customer service and making my customers happy. So that's why I dreaded this week. Wednesday, I had to go fix 2 stones outside, by the way, that they're already set. They're in the cemetery. They've been out there for a year or 2. So outside in the elements, kneeling down, these stones are standing upright, so it's not the easiest thing to get to. So I knew I had a day full of that, driving to Tuscaloosa, doing that, then driving all the way back to Winfield. Then I had to wake up in the morning, go and handle the situation with a customer not happy with a portrait, and then turn around and immediately go handle a situation with a customer that was not happy with the portrait, and fix another stone and have a customer come and look at it before I left to make sure they were happy, and etch another full scene, and etch another complete stone, which, by the way, had a portrait on it. It's been a busy couple of days, and I really was dreading it more than any I've dreaded in a long time. The Tuscaloosa job wasn't a big deal. I got them done. Everything was fine. I was done by 3 o'clock that afternoon. Did a little Goodwill shopping. I like to go to the Goodwill stores when I'm out on my trips because, my wife and kids aren't with me and I got a little time to kill. Can't be with them, so I spend a little time with myself, and I'll go to the Goodwill stores and the thrift shops that I can find, and I'll look through their CDs because I love to grow my Broadway soundtracks collection. So I did, and I actually found 2 really good buys. The big store called America's Thrift Store, if you've ever been into one of those are really nice thrift stores, and they had a huge CD collection, and I lucked out. Their CDs were $1 a piece, and these included dual CDs, CD sets that had a disc 1 and disc 2, and I found 2 of those. I found the original Broadway cast recording of Cats and the original Broadway cast recording of Miss Saigon, both 2 CD sets, and I got them for $1 each, and so that was awesome. That was a good cap off to a good day. I got home, not home, well, might as well say home. Got to the hotel, or the motel that I stay in when I go to Winfield. Little hole-in-the-wall place called the Relax Inn. If you were to ride by it, you would say, no, I'm not staying there. No way am I staying there. One time I was kind of short on funds, out of pocket cash, and I needed a good place to stay, and somebody in Winfield suggested the Relax Inn, and I had already been past it and said, no, I'm not staying there. It's a roach motel. No telling what you'll catch by laying in those beds. But the guy said, no, they've redone it. It looks like crap on the outside, but on the inside, those rooms are nice. They're new. They're renovated. Go check it out. So I went, checked it out. It was wonderful. Stayed in there, and the price was right, so now that's where I stay every time. And so I went to the Relax Inn, and I had several pages on a play that I'm writing. The working title is called Friends Like You. It's a comedy, and I'm almost done writing it. I'm getting ready for the final scene, the climax scene, and I had several pages. I write everything out longhand while I'm in restaurants and stuff like that when I'm on my trips. I'd gotten several pages written out longhand that needed to be committed to type, because I'll try to, every time I write something out longhand, when I finish, I'll commit that portion and add it to the digital copy I'm making, typing it out, so that basically by the time I get to the end of typing it out, that's basically draft 2. I'll go through it again, correct things that are mistakes that are made, and tighten up the dialogue and situations and little things like that, and then I've already got a third draft ready to go for people to read. Anyway, we'll talk about that at a later time. I had some handwritten pages that needed to be committed to type, so I went and got a nice, wonderfully healthy TV dinner, stuck it in the microwave in the motel room, set up my computer, typed it out while watching Dual Survival on the Discovery Channel, and went to bed. Well, no, I did read my Bible. Here's where my day really got frustrating today, but also where my day was really blessed. I can't imagine losing my son or my daughter to death. As selfish as it may sound, I hope they see me die first. I do not want to watch them die. And I think most, if not every parent, can understand where I'm coming from there. I don't mean for it to sound selfish, but I do not want to see my children die. In the natural order of things, I hope they get to see me die peacefully and happily. I mean, I'm ready to go now and be with my Savior. I don't want to, because there's so much that I want to do to be able to be there for them and to teach them and spend as much time here on earth for them as I can. But I can't imagine having to go through the ordeal of dealing with the death of one of my children. And I know so many have, and so many do, and so many will. And that's no different from what I had to deal with today with the family. I won't say their last names. I was tempted to say their last names, but although they'll probably never hear this, let's just be safe and not say their last names. This family has been difficult for me and the monument company to deal with. Not that they're difficult people, but because the death of their son has hit them so hard and they're having such a hard time with it, that we've had to take it very slow, very deliberate, very delicately every time we've dealt with them. This young man was in his late teens, early 20s. Apparently an up-and-coming star in the baseball world. Very talented baseball player, a pitcher. And they had invested so much love into his career that they really wanted to show his life surrounded by baseball on his stone in some way that would just be honorable to him. And we came up with a montage of different photographs and stuff like that. So I had to do a whole lot of drawings for them and get them ready to go. And I met them again one more time when I was there to do some more stones. They came in and their stone was there, but we weren't quite ready to etch. But we went ahead and designed it and got everything laid out the way we would need to be. So I came the very next time I came and I etched the stone. One of them, there were 4 portraits. There was some stuff on one side of the stone, but on the front side of the stone, there were 4 portraits. A big one right in the middle, surrounded on the left, right, and at the bottom by 3 smaller portraits at different stages. One as he was just barely above being a toddler, one where he was a young boy, one where he was an adolescent, and then one at the age he was, the big one, when he passed. I'm not really sure how he passed. I want to say it might have been a car wreck. Well, I didn't get the one on the bottom right. When you etch portraits, you really have to pay attention. One small dot, especially on a very small portrait. And this one, we're talking about a head the size of a quarter. So it was a small portrait, and when you're scratching that into stone, it's not easy to do. But I didn't get it right. Something went wrong. I had been looking at the stone for far too long, all day long, and when I left, it looked okay to me. When they saw it, it was not right, and they were not happy. I mean, they weren't mad, but they wanted it right. So here I come again today to fix it. They were very relieved when the monument dealer had called me up a couple of weeks ago. He was freaking out because he didn't think that I was going to be able to fix it. He thought, they've had such a difficult time getting this customer to the point where they were. It's taken so long to get this stone ready, and now we may have to send it back to Elberton, have it polished off. And Michael, I just don't think you're going to be able to make them happy. But I told him, fear not. By what you're telling me, I think I can make them happy. I think I can fix it. Just have them meet me. And we did. We met them today, and they came back, and we worked on it, and I did a little here, and I did a little there. And it was frustrating because I wasn't getting paid for all the work I was getting done. I had been paid for it once. I was here again. But I did get paid because blessing number 1 today is when this mother looks at me, looks at the stone once we've gotten it right, and then looks back at me, tissue in her hand, tissue soaking with her tears. And she says, "I love it. What an awesome memorial to my son you've given me." And she hugs me tight. And she's shivering. This is a lady who has been dealing for months now with the death of her son, yet she's still weeping and shaking and shivering. A father who shakes your hand and clutches it tight and squeezes, because he knows if he doesn't squeeze and hold back the tears, then they're going to come running himself. And he's trying to be strong for his wife. But you can see the pain in his eyes too, and the redness there. And he squeezes my hand and says, "Thank you." He said, I know we've been hard to deal with, and I know we've been picky, but this is our son." As a father, that hits me close because I can't imagine it. If you're listening to this, I will have cut out the long pause that was between the words, "This is my son," and the words, "as a father." In real time, as I record this, there was a long pause there as I fought back the tears myself. Because as a father, you can't help but put yourself in the place of that man. As a Christian, as someone who feels what I do is a ministry, I can't help but put myself in the place of that man, and I want to take some of his pain for him. What a blessing to be able to honor a son for these people. But that wasn't all of my day. That was just 11 o'clock. It was time for me to load up my stuff and get into the Buick and drive 15 miles down the road to Carbon Hill, Alabama, where there was another customer who had an issue with a portrait. When I got there, I had more work to do on the big scene that was a color mountain scene with a transfer truck, tractor trailer. And I started working on that, waiting until the other customer got there because I wasn't going to touch the portrait that he wasn't happy with to fix it until I spoke with him and found out exactly what it was he was seeing that I couldn't see. See, when you're dealing with portraiture, you have to understand, while you have a picture to look at, it's a two-dimensional picture, but that's all I have to see. And this particular picture was a little bit blurry as well, and small. It was very difficult to tell certain features of the face, and I had to do some guesswork, and that's where the problem came in. But when you're dealing even with a large photograph, an 8x10 headshot of something that's perfectly clear, you have to remember that if you're speaking with a mother, there will be an essence of that face of her child. In this case, it was a man and his brother. Things that they'll remember that I'll never see. Things that are actually not in the photograph, but they see it in the photograph because they see it in their mind, because it's a memory of that loved one. Well, that was what was going on here. And when he finally got here, he'd been upset before, but they had told him, a lot of times when people look at a portrait and there's something not right about it, they think, oh, it's on the stone, it's in there now, there's nothing you can do, and they get upset, and they don't realize there are things I can do, and I can usually fix it. But she told him, don't worry, Michael's coming back. I've told him that he needs to meet with you, and he's going to fix your portrait. You just need to come up here and speak with him, and you two work together to get it fixed. So he came in, he wasn't upset. He was very nice and very calm and told me what it was. There was an issue with the nose, and there was, actually, I saw exactly what it was once he mentioned what it was. The nose was too wide at one point, the nostril came out too far, and I made an adjustment. Looked at the picture a little closer, saw what the issue was, fixed it, and boom, it was done. Well, here we go again with a gentleman who was nearly this man's twin. Looking at the man, with the exception of a long beard, the gentleman in the that had passed that I was doing his portrait, he had just a snow white hair and a snow white goatee. Well, his brother that was having the work done that I was meeting with had a long beard. He said people call him Santa Claus. He plays Santa Claus at Christmas time, and he had the snow white hair and the snow white beard, but it was a long, full beard. Otherwise, they were nearly twins. They weren't twins, but they looked that much alike. It was surreal looking at the portrait that I had done of the deceased man and then looking in the face of his brother. And here's a man who could bear, an older man, big, stout, thick, tough guy. And watching that tough exterior, when he saw his brother pop out of that portrait, once I got it right, the change in his demeanor and the softness that he became, and the tenderness he felt for the love for his brother. Here again is another day of dread that has turned to blessing, or another part of a day of dread that has turned to blessing. And it's at those moments that I realize I do have a ministry. I love what I do. And then later this afternoon, just a few hours ago, I was working on the other stone that I was actually getting paid on, and I had finished the big 5-foot mountain scene with the 18-wheeler. And in walks the lady that had ordered it. And so I stiffened a little. I always stiffen a little. They always walk up to the stone and they'll touch it. And they'll rub their hand across it, because in etching it's there and it's tangible and it's beautiful, but you can barely feel that it's even there. And it's hard to believe that that thing will be there forever. But it will, because it's scratched into the polish of the stone. And that's exactly what she did. She looked at the stone and she ran her hand over it and she touched it. And she looked up at me with teardrops forming in her eyes. And 2 simple words: it's beautiful. That's all I needed to hear. My day was made. A day that I dreaded. A day that I prayed over multiple times. As I was going to meet this family first thing this morning with the portrait of their son, I prayed, God, give me the hands and the eyes and the vision that only you can give. And he did. And then I went to Carbon Hill and I had to meet this gentleman, and I prayed again, God, give me the art and the speed and the skill and the eyes and the vision that only God can give. And he did. And that's what I do every day. I love it. I'm a performer at heart. My true earthly home is on a stage or behind a microphone. I won't lie about that. But I do love what I do. And God has blessed me enough to be able to do what I do on a daily basis. Support my family, sometimes not very, very easily. God's been blessing us left and right lately. My wife has recently started a house cleaning business, and it seems to have taken off, and so there's more income there, and that's doing well. And there's another part of our business we're launching that I've been talking about launching for, it seems like, forever, but I think I'm finally right there on the cusp of it. That should help. But that's what I do. That's my life. I have a beautiful, wonderful wife of 20 years. I have a wonderful 10-and-a-half-year-old son and a beautiful, almost 2-year-old daughter that I cannot wait to see tomorrow before they go off to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for a weekend vacation with my mom. I won't get to see them very much, but that's okay. Life is good. At this recording, at 2:30 tomorrow afternoon, I meet with my co-host, Tony King, and we record episode number 8 of Q1 Go, the theater show. I'm looking forward to that. We're going to talk about interesting, fun facts about theater. Not just our theater, but theaters all over the world, and just things about the life of theater in general. And if you're into that type of thing, if you're listening to this, why don't you go look up Q1 Go, the theater show. That's CUEONEGO, the theater show. The easiest way to do that is to go to q1go.com. So if nobody ever hears this but my son one day when he's 50 years old and is thinking about his father and goes and pulls out those old CDs or those old jump drives, whatever the method of listening to this stuff will be by the time he's 50 years old, which I doubt will be jump drives. It will probably be crystals or something. Maybe Noah, you're listening to this. Merida. Is this another pause I'll have to cut out? Or do I just want my emotions to ride this road with me and stay on the recording? If I'm going to do this, I might as well just put my emotions out there. If you're going to listen to this and you've listened this far, then you've made a commitment to be a part of my life, so let me be a part of yours and just be emotional. Because I do want this, if you're listening, to be something that we can share together. So I'm going to talk to my son right now, if you don't mind, and my daughter. And knowing me, because I am a crier, I will probably shed tears. So there's your warning. If you can't handle it, go ahead to whatever is next. But if you want to be a part of the true me, then just keep listening for just a little bit longer. Noah, I don't know how old you'll be when you first hear this, if you'll ever hear this, or if you'll be listening to this 50 or more times. I just don't know where it's going past when I hit stop. But just in case you are listening, these trips that I take when I'm going out to work, I know they're not easy on you, son. They're certainly not easy on me. And believe me, they're not easy on your mother. Being away from you and your mom and Merida, it kills me a little inside each trip. I kind of look at it as like a muscle for our relationship. Each time you work out a muscle, it tears down, but it grows stronger. I like to look at these trips kind of like that. Even though a little bit of me is torn down with each trip, maybe a little of you, a little of Merida, a little of your mom, it builds our relationship stronger. I just want you to know that each passing moment that I'm away from you, you're with me. You're always right there in my heart. I don't stop thinking about you. I don't stop missing you. And even though I'm gone away from you far less time than a lot of people, a lot of fathers are gone from their children for weeks, months, even years at a time. Think of the military fathers and husbands who spend years overseas. You know, I'm just a phone call away, and usually only 2 or 3 days away, but for me, sometimes it seems like an eternity. So, son, just know that I love you, and I'm proud of you. You're such a beautiful and wonderful young man. The person you're growing up to be, I am so proud of. And I can't wait to be a part of every step of the rest of your life. I love you so much. Merida, baby, you're too young at this recording to even know what I'm saying, really. But I miss you, and I long to hold you. Every time we're away, you and your brother, I can feel you in my arms. I miss kissing you goodnight. And I know that I'm on the way home. And Noah is home, and I'll be able to sneak in even if he's asleep and give him a peck. But you, tonight at this recording, are at Mima's house. You're only 2. And you weren't feeling real good today. Had to go to the doctor. Nothing really to worry about, they said. You just had a cold. Baby, I love you. and I miss you. And I'm working hard to be able to work things to the point that I can be home for you and Noah and your mother. So just know that while I can't promise how long it'll take, I will promise that I'm working as hard as I can to get there. I don't want to miss any more of your life than I have to. And no matter what stage of life you're in or how old you are, when you finally get to listen to this, I'll always be there for you, baby. And Kayla, I love you so much. I know that you would say I'm the best husband in the world, but you know that I would disagree with you. 20 years of marriage and we've still got so much to learn. If you ever listen to this, Kayla, then just know that just not very long ago, something triggered in my mind before I started recording this, actually, well before I started recording this. Somewhere along our 20 years, I quit treating you like a lady and quit treating you like a beautiful, sensitive, sensual, provocative, feminine, fantastic woman that you are. When you're married 20 years, sometimes we take that bond a little too literally, I think. God puts us together and creates us and makes us one. All I know is how to be a man, although a lot of the stuff I like is kind of girly. If you look at my theater obsession and stuff like that, some people would call it kind of girly. It's not. It's artistic. But I'm a sensitive guy. But for the most part, I'm manly. At least I think I am. And because we're one, a lot of times, because all I know how to be is a man, and now we're one and you're part of me, I kind of treat you more as a buddy than a wife. And it's such a slow fade that you don't think about the damage that can do. We've got a great marriage, but it could be so much better. And I'm vowing now, I'm vowing to re-enter a point in our marriage, a place in our marriage, the place where it was fresh and new, where we were courting, and I looked at you as a woman, an object of my desire, not just a buddy. You're so good to me, and you're so patient. And I love you so much. I want to be a better husband and a better father for your children, a better provider. And so I just want you to know how much I love you, and that's my vow, and that's my goal. Oh, well. So I'm going to shut up, turn off the recorder, rewind it, and listen to it. Whatever happens next will be a whole new story. Hope it's more interesting than this one, but I hope you got some interest and something out of it. Until next time, my name is Michael Blackston. This is a journal of me. Thank you so much for giving me a little bit of your time. This is episode 000, and we're going to just jump right into the meat of the type of stuff we're going to talk about in the next episode. If you'd like to get in touch with me, here's the way you can do it. I have an email address that you can get in touch with me by. All you got to do is send an email to roadnoisepodcast@gmail.com, or you can also call me on our hotline. Now, I have a hotline that serves all of my podcasts, so if you do call me on the hotline and you're calling about this show, please reference Road Noise. But you can leave me a voicemail, and if you do, I will probably end up putting it on the show. And here's that number, 706-389-0401. That's 706-389-0401. Just, again, make sure you reference the Road Noise Podcast when you call if you're calling about something regarding this podcast. So once again, thanks for joining me and riding along beside me in the passenger seat and keeping me company. Until next time, I'm Mike Blackston. This is Road Noise. Bye-bye.